Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan, that's Benny, and that's Dan, and today we are going to be talking about the Venom post-credit scene. So, I've seen it. Benny and Dan haven't seen it, but they, because of rumors and me just telling them what happens, they know what happened. So if you you haven't seen the movie and you haven't seen the post-credits, then leave. But we're going to spoil it completely here.
I'll say it real quick because people are like, oh, Benny hasn't seen the movie yet? No, but I know everything that happens in it based on this being my job. So, like,
yeah.
I never get to be surprised by movies anymore, and I'm okay with that. But
yeah,
I already know what
the only
happened,
thing I knew about this going in was that I think you had mentioned that there was maybe something that spoils No Way Home or ties it into the MCU in some way.
Yes.
Dan saw an earlier version of the movie. Benny hasn't seen the movie, so we're literally just gonna talk about the post-credit scene in its
right. We'll be doing a full Venom review on Monday when we've all seen it and gotten to fully absorb it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we are fully aware of what happens in the post-credit scene and what the implications on the MCU are. So that's what we want to discuss here. So
right. And if you don't know what happens, real quick, I'll just explain it. So Venom and Eddie are like taking a vacation on a beach after the movie wraps up, and they're sitting in a hotel room. Venom tells Eddie that he has a bunch of knowledge because he's lived for so long. He starts to give that knowledge to Eddie, but before he can, a bright flash happens, and then they're transported to a different room where on the TV in that room we see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson revealing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And then Venom licks the screen and says, "I like this little boy."
I'm pretty sure he doesn't say those exact words.
No, but it's pretty close to that. He's like, I think he says "this one" as he licks Tom Holland. Very strange.
So this could mean Venom 3 is going to go in a direction involving Tom Holland and Venom. I actually don't think it does mean that. I think it's going to start I think Multiverse of Madness, and this kind of confirms a lot of the theories, Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home are intended to merge a lot of the MCU problems that they have gained over the years now.
Right.
You know, working out a bigger deal with Sony about Tom Holland and Venom, working out a deal with Fox about the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. I feel like the point of these two movies is going to be but like No Way Home's going to break everything, and Multiverse of Madness is going to become the new status quo. That's what my theory is. And I would have said Venom's not going to be brought over just because of the Sony dealings and things like that, and the fact that they have blatantly said they will not be a Venom versus Spider-Man movie.
Right.
Until Andy Serkis said about a month ago, no, Venom's going to fight Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, like, if you go years back when these movies were being developed, Amy Pascal was always like, oh yeah, Tom Holland is going to cross over at some point, and this Venom movie takes place in the MCU. And then they would go over to Kevin Feige, and he'd be like, no, absolutely not. And then,
Which tells you how tenuous the agreement was. Yeah, well, the agreement probably wasn't that tight back then, because that was also Sony had the ability to just take Tom Holland, which they did, and that made headlines. They were like, nope, we're taking it. I think there's something that says that can never happen again, but things have to be integrated.
Mm-hmm. I would love to be a fly on the wall in those meetings of like back when Sony was trying to take back like the Tom Holland Spider-Man stuff and like ruin that trilogy. That's probably where this deal was struck for the next Venom to end with an MCU tie-in, and I would just I want to know, like, is he okay with this, or is he just being like wrested into it by companies? Like, is this going to be a one-way street like Marvel TV? Maybe Tom Holland will only show up in Venom 3, but Venom won't show up in any other MCU movies. Like, I don't know what's going on.
I could see Venom showing up in an Avengers movie, even as a background character.
That's crazy.
But, and I have a theory to go with that, I think that's one reason why it's PG-13.
Mm-hmm.
Because now it lines up with the MCU. Oh, we brought Venom down a peg. You know what I mean? Which kind of makes me a little worried for Deadpool, because that means if we get an R-rated Deadpool, he won't be in the Avengers.
Like, also, technically, Deadpool has crossed over with the MCU now because of the Deadpool, like, when he, like, watched the trailer for something with Korg from the MCU.
Yes. That was great.
It's like, okay, is he in there now? What's going on with that?
I I really think they're going to merge everything. I do. I think that's what's going to happen.
I think even if Deadpool's R-rated, you can always bring him in because you can always have just like someone go up to him and be like, hey, dude, can you comment on the language? Or something like that, and be like, oh my gosh, is this another PG-13 movie? Right. All right, let me cross off the things I can say. And
that
that's
writes
Deadpool.
itself.
Exactly.
Can't really do that with Venom. You can't have Venom pull up a list and be like, all right, fine, Eddie.
He's like, we fought Carnage in PG-13. We can do this in PG-13.
Without spoiling the movie too much, Venom eats heads in both movies. So, like, and they're both PG-13, so it's like, they could get away with it. Who cares? Big monster man. I don't think they're going to care much.
Right.
I think in terms of like the overall MCU, I think the whole No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness is going to bring people to the MCU to show that they can. Multiverse of Madness is going to put them back in their original universes, but we have made it clear they can come over. I have a feeling it's going to be something like that so that they can do the Venom thing, and until they have all the rights, they can go, oh, he's easily, like, he can come through when we need him. He's through the portal. But other than that, I mean, I expect them to keep the multiverse and keep some of them separate. I do think it would be cool, though, if after No Way Home, we get Venom and he has, like, the spider look on his chest. I think that would be kind of cool.
That was actually when because I was rewatching Venom because we're going to do a video about, the original Venom movie at some point. And I couldn't remember if they had the spider on him or not. No. And I was like, oh, he must get it at some point in the movie. He just never gets it. There's nothing there. So
which feels weird because we've always seen him with the spider. Yeah.
It's like he's naked. It's strange.
I actually don't think they're going to put them all back, Dan. What I think they're going to do is pull a Secret Wars or a CW Crisis. And they're basically going to bring everyone together, and they're going to give us very minor differences. And maybe the next Venom, they'll reference a couple things that feel off. Like maybe the convenience store owner will be a different person. That kind of a situation.
So you're talking CW...
Well, because that's what they
Crisis
did in CW.
On Infinite Earths
on Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW, they merged all the worlds.
Yeah.
And the only difference
until they
was
didn't.
like... Well, yeah,
until they forgot.
But like they would do minor differences, like Diggle had a daughter instead of a son.
Yeah, or that was Flashpoint. They've done it like 7 times.
But what I'm saying is you could easily just say, because what they've done a good job, and I have not seen the main Venom, but from what I've read, they don't reference anything that would contradict the MCU. So everything, because he's in San Francisco.
They're very smart about that.
Right. Yeah. That was the thing with the first movie too, is because like Sony was just like under the table lobbying for the movie to be in the MCU, so much so that they set it on the other side of the country and they never talk about anything that's related to it, which is and I think that's also similar to like now the Morbius thing with Vulture being in Morbius. That has like a whole different like when was that decision made? Like was that
We don't
or
talk
the
about
poster of
Morbius.
Spider-Man in the background. That was the PS4 Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is all that? Like, that movie, are we ever going to see that? Are we going to see that now that Venom has come out and we've seen this post-credit scene? So that movie can be in the MCU, but it's probably going to be horrible, so they don't want... Like, maybe Kevin Feige is on board with this, but only because he saw Let There Be Carnage and was like, okay, this is fine. I can deal with this. But then he saw Morbius and was like, no, cancel that movie. Because that sucks. I don't want that in my universe.
I'm kind of curious. I don't think that movie's gonna be terrible. But let's not get into a discussion about if we think Morbius is ever gonna come out.
Sure.
I got a quick question. In the post scene, you said that they're on the beach, big flash of light. They're in the like apartment again. They see it on the screen. Does it flash of light again after that?
No.
Okay, because I'm starting to wonder if that's going to be something that like we're getting cracks in the multiverse and they're potentially like seeing through these
that's what
cracks
I'm saying.
and they
because the only thing they have to do is exactly
stuff,
what they did. Acknowledge Spider-Man as a thing on TV. And then suddenly, San Francisco's not where Venom wants to be. Suddenly, he wants to be over in New York. And now they could both have existed in its entirety, and you've completely separated them. And Morbius is coming out in January. So what?
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay. God.
The other good thing about the multiverse with Venom and bringing him into Tom Holland's, you can use that multiverse jump to make Venom more of a bad guy again. to make Spider-Man have like the more, he's a villain, as opposed to current Venom where he's like, I am like a kind of hero.
I think that's what they're doing, because the scene where when he licks the screen, he's very, very like I want to kill this guy. Like, I don't like this little spider freak. And I don't know if I love the idea of them changing him just 180 into being a villain, because of how they like forced down our throat in the first movie, and sometimes in the second movie as well, like how good of a person Eddie Brock is, and how this guy is not a villain.
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of weird in that respect, but also like, I'm okay with seeing Spider-Man fight Venom. I'm cool with that.
It's gonna be interesting because they're obviously setting up for that. I do think they're just moving people over that are on the. I don't think whatever's gonna happen in Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home is, in terms of the multiverse, I think is going to bring everyone together. And the purpose of this post-credit scene is because this sets up the next Venom in the universe already. Instead of having to open with it in the MCU, you can do, we already got moved over, and this has been our status quo for a little while. You know, like maybe you can open with, Eddie, I want to go to New York. The little spider boy is there. You know, like
the little spider boy. I
want to eat its head.
Probably does.
He's like, spiders are tasty. What the hell, Venom?
I really think that the point of this is to show everything's being merged into one. Yeah. Mutants are going to be here. Fantastic Four are going to be here. Because they're showing it, and they're also showing that he's already going to be there. Because if you're saying it is the exact scene from the end of Far From Home, then they're showing that Venom's been there for a little while. He's been there,
yeah. I assume, because I've also now heard parts of the No Way Home trailer, because they played it before Venom. I closed my eyes and my ears.
La 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 la.
Yeah, but because I'm a freak. But I've picked out certain parts, so I kind of know what the plot. They're just doing the thing from the comics, but I assume based on that, there's like, it sent like a ripple effect out, and that's the blinding light that we see at the end of Venom. But it sent him back a few months. Yeah. And now he's there at that time.
I wonder if they'll use this as a way to retcon Mysterio alive again.
Possible. I also think I have a bigger theory that they're also backdooring mutants into this based on Venom, because I think mutants exist and Xavier exists in the Venom Sony universe, which is like nuts. That would make no sense. But
based on the rumors that I just heard, and I said in our last Absolute Comics, or we do too many shows, so I said it somewhere. Supposedly they're going to be backdooring a lot of mutant ideas and characters before the end of 2021. So that's very possible that theory.
It's not a spoiler that Shriek is in Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Right.
That's just a character that's a mutant. And they do some stuff with that in the movie.
They definitely do.
So, like, I don't know. That would be really strange that Sony is the way that we get mutants into the MCU and not Fox. But it seems like that's maybe what's happening.
Well, the nice thing about Sony, and that we've learned about the different multiverses, is from Into the Spider-Verse with Spider-Gwen, we showed that when you go through the multiverse, you don't always end up in this new universe at the same time.
Right,
because Gwen got sent back, a couple weeks before? Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if that's what they're going to do with Venom, and also how they might explain things like the mutants, that they were thrown back in, but they got lost in time and ended up here instead, or it ended up in the future.
That also ties back into like how they deal with time travel in Endgame, where they talk about how which we've since seen as bullshit, because of course it is, where your future is not, you can't change the future by changing things in the past, because that becomes your future. Mm-hmm. That's you don't have to explain away why the mutants haven't been around, because they were swapped into the multiverse and they were put back into the history of this new merged multiverse, but the version of events that we saw was before that merge. So you might see a photo of Xavier at the fight in Endgame or something. He wouldn't help. He doesn't care. But that we didn't see that in the actual movie, because that didn't technically happen in our timeline. So this is such an easy fix, but I don't know how it's coming out of a post-credit scene from Venom.
Because I actually do. Because what they're doing is, up until now, everything Sony makes, Morbius, Venom, we still, in theory,
Aunt May
Silver
movie.
Sable, Aunt May movie, Silver Sable movie. We're all like, it's in its own universe, it's its own thing. And everyone has always said, oh, that's terrible that it's not in the MCU universe. When all you need to do is have Kevin Feige oversight on everything, and you have an entire another studio able to make more movies about the MCU. And so by showing this in Venom, it's now opening up the door, because this is the first movie back since the Tom Holland deal got fixed. This is the first of them, period. Like with No Way Home and Venom and Morbius, this is it. So you're showing right now Venom's being manipulated and put back into the MCU.
I hope they just go, hey, Sony's universe, that's the ultimate universe, and we're the main universe.
Oh,
and
true.
let's do a storyline with that.
That'd be fun.
Good. And then they smash.
Exactly.
I think they're really just gonna, Benny, like you've been saying, they're just gonna take the parts. It's the same stuff that they did after Secret Wars. They're gonna take the parts that they want to use and that work, and they're gonna drop them into the MCU with as little or as much explanation as they feel they need to have the audience accept it, and that's cool. Like I'm fine with that. I hope it doesn't get like oversaturated, and they have a plan and they let Feige oversee everything, which it seems like is happening. Yeah. But, time will tell. So
I think they're going to do it just like they do with Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now, where you look at both the series and like, they could be in the MCU.
Well, I hope that... No, that's not what I want.
But they might not be in the MCU.
Well, all of those are just not in the MCU. Anyone who says they are is just like hoping over facts.
They haven't denied them, though, is my point. That's the problem.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a part of... Hold on, no, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was part of the MCU, because there was like...
The
they
last
talk
couple
about
of
the fall of...
The last couple of seasons, they retcon it out.
Oh, do they?
No, they don't explicitly retcon it out. You can retcon it out. The problem with all of those other properties is that they're all a one-way street. The only thing that's ever gone from Marvel TV up into the MCU proper, into the movies, and now the Disney Plus stuff, is the actor who played Jarvis in Agent Carter is the same actor who plays Jarvis in the past in Endgame.
Interesting.
That is the only thing.
Well,
everything else trickles down from the MCU.
Oh, yeah, because Phil Coulson never went back.
Yeah, Coulson went back.
To this day, the Avengers don't know he survived.
Right, exactly, which is
like,
insane.
Wait a second, Coulson? They lied to us.
He went like 7 years as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. running this whole operation, just barely missing the Avengers and all of it.
They talk about it sometimes where it's like, they're busy, we don't want to bother them. But it's like, also, it's clearly because Kevin Feige doesn't want to deal with all that TV stuff. Nobody wants to play ball. But it's we're in an unprecedented time for the MCU where it's like, it's crazy that now 2 studios are potentially making movies set in one universe, which is like the fact that, again, I'd love to see those meetings. And one of them is
giving us the living vampire.
Right. Which I guarantee you we will never see again after that movie.
You keep making it, Sony, because they said that they might send me for that one. And I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with that.
Dan wants a free trip.
At this point, it could be good, it could be bad. I have no idea. Because if someone told me, what I'm just saying is, based on, think about this, when they made Venom initially, we were all like, that's going to be terrible. Why would you make Venom and not have it be a part of Spider-Man? You can't make Venom on his own from the get-go, and they did it. So...
Yeah, they did it. It was fine.
I liked it as a Venom fan.
Spider-Man fighting Venom still would have been better.
Oh, no, yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Nobody can disagree with that. Like, I think in like a post, like, at least for me, in a post like Donny Cates Venom world, I'm definitely more okay with Venom being a thing on his own. But I won't lie. That post-credit scene got me way more excited than anything in that entire movie did. So,
well, because regardless of how popular Venom has gotten through his comic books, his appearances, his movie, he's still initially for 10 years a villain for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's it's hard to ignore.
He'll always be that.
Right. And even in Venom standalone stuff in the comics, they might ignore the specific tie to Spider-Man sometimes, but they never ignore the ties to the larger Marvel universe, which is what these 2 Venom movies kind of have done. And especially in the first one, it hurts it a lot. because they can't talk about like the actual origins of Venom and all of these symbiotes coming from Venom specifically, because they have to make up their own stuff. And like, at least for me, all of the stuff that they made up in the first movie sucks.
Yeah. The made up stuff wasn't the greatest. Oh, we're soldiers. We crash landed. Riot's got this. Riot? Who? What? Other Venom? Okay.
This guy? Really? You didn't do Carnage off rip? Why not?
Not even Carnage. Like, if you wanted to do another symbiote, there's Phage, fucking Toxin.
Yeah. We're not going to go through the list again. There's too many.
What I'm saying is Riot. You went with the one that looks like Venom. You couldn't do any of the color variations that exist.
They were saving money.
You could have come out the gate and done anti-Venom. Just be like, he's Venom versus anti-Venom. Screw it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Or, John Jameson is in that movie. What about Venom versus Man-Wolf? Why not? Sure.
So,
anyway. That's. I don't think we have much else to say about the post-credit scene. So, we'll see. To be determined. Other than that, this has been Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan. That's Benny. That's Dan. Stay tuned to the channel. We're going to be talking about Venom for like the next week. So
yeah,
stay tuned.